This week's Parsha VaYeishev starts off with a story of Yosef's coat of many colors and its repercussions. Yaakov gave his favorite son Yosef a special garment, which many commentators interpret to represent a cloak of royalty. Yosef was already not on good terms with his brothers, as he had continually brought bad reports about them to their father Yaakov. Unfortunately, Yaakov's gift and its promise of Yosef's future within the family put the brothers over the edge and led them to hate him. The story continues. Yosef had a dream where he and his brothers were out in the field binding sheaves, when suddenly Yosef's sheaf stood straight and his brothers' sheaves all bowed down to his. The Torah tells us that when Yosef retold this dream to his brothers, they detested him even more, for thinking that he could lord over them. The Torah continues and tells us that Yosef had a second dream. This time he dreamt that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. When Yosef retold this dream to everyone, his father Yaakov expressed his displeasure with this dream's implication. Will his father and mother and brothers all actually bow down to him? This time, the Torah reports that his brother's reaction was to be jealous of him rather than hating him. Does this make sense? First they hate him and only then they are jealous of him? Aren't the usual chain of events the opposite way? I would think that first they would be jealous of Yosef, as he was their father's favorite and received special treatment. Only then would the feelings of jealousy develop into hate. So why does the Torah report that first came hate and only then came jealousy? The Or HaChaim explains what happened and why the Torah's description is actually very accurate, even though it might seem to be counterintuitive. As previously said, Yosef was not on good terms with his brothers. Why? As the Torah related, Yosef had continually brought bad reports about them to their father. Putting it mildly, this did not endear him to them. When their father then gifted Yosef a special garment that showed that he thought that Yosef was the most special of them all, it only added insult to injury, and the resentment developed into hate. There was no jealousy to be found among Yosef's brothers, only loathing. When Yosef later dreamt that his brothers' sheaves bowed down to his brothers' reaction was to detest him even more, for they interpreted the dream to reflect Yosef's inner desire to reign over them. They hated him even more just for thinking that. When Yosef dreamt his second dream of the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing to him, they all understood the dream as Yaakov had voiced, that Yosef dreamt that his mother and father bowed down to him too. While they might not think too highly of Yosef and intensely hate him for thinking that he was better than they, it was inconceivable to think that Yosef's innermost thoughts and desires was to lord over his parents. As such, it can only mean that Yosef's dreams were not a reflection of his innermost desires, but rather a communication of some type from God. That revelation momentarily shocked them out of their hate, and they then realized that neither dream of Yosef's was a reflection of his thoughts, but was a message from God. It was only at that point that the brothers become jealous of him, as God was intimating to Yosef what his future would hold. Shabbat Shalom.